Hello everyone, today we'll find out if it's possible to beat The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine while only using Igni. We have already gone through Hearts of Stone and the main game, and now it's time to finish off The Witcher 3 with the Blood and Wine DLC. Before we begin with the challenge, let's quickly go through the rules, and they're pretty simple. The first rule is that I'm only allowed to use Igni in and outside of combat, with the only exception being using my sword in order to destroy objects. The second rule is that I'm playing on the Death March difficulty. And the third is that cutscenes do not count because I have no control over Geralt in these situations. Now that the rules are out of the way, we can begin with the challenge. Our story begins when I was summoned by the Knights of Toussaint. They told me that a terrible beast, they called the Goliath, was wreaking havoc on all of Beauclair, and I was the only one who could realistically take him down. I agreed to help the knights, but first we had some warming up to do, so I burned to a crisp a few bandits and we were off to Toussaint. As soon as we arrived, I was face to face with the beast. I even had the help of Guillaume, Muton and Palmerin. Still, that didn't change the fact that the beast was terrifying, but he was no match for my fire attacks, so I eventually took him down. I told Guillaume that was the first time I saved his life and everyone gets 2 times. And then me and Muton decided to go on to the beach. However, we were attacked by a few monsters there and we found a dead body, so I had to investigate that. I asked around and it turned out that I was dealing with a serial killer. Now that was exciting. My investigation led me to Corvo Bianco, where I found a pile of bodies, so I was definitely on the right track. Inside of the morgue I found a Bruxer who was trying to eat the body me and Muton found. The Bruxer wasn't too difficult, especially considering that it's a one-on-one fight and vampires are susceptible to fire, so the Bruxer wasn't an issue even though she was teleporting all over the place. I investigated the body, found myself some loose change and a free hand, and realized that the Bruxer was not the serial killer. Unfortunately, I had no more leads to go on, so I decided to go meet with Palmerin and discuss what we could do. Unfortunately, Guillaume had to get himself in trouble again, so I had to fight with the Shalamar. Honestly, that fight wasn't too difficult, especially considering that Palmerin was distracting it most of the time, so the Shalamar wasn't too difficult. Considering that it had done nothing wrong, I decided to spare it, to the displeasure of the crowd. I told Guillaume that this was the second and last time I would save his life, and then met with the Duchess of Toussaint herself. I told Anna Henrietta that there was a serial killer on the loose, who had at least 3 victims up to this point. Unfortunately for me, she told me that she didn't care what happened to the peasants and that she wouldn't pay me to catch the killer. Her tone changed quite a lot though when her commander told us that they found a note saying that Muton would be the next victim. Suddenly she was quite happy to pay me to catch the killer, even tore up her dress in order to get to Muton quicker. Geralt seemed to enjoy the view and the 2 of us set off to find Muton. Unfortunately, I had to do some side quests in the middle of this, like chasing a unicorn and curb stomping a fish I stole from some random guy. After that, in order to assert my dominance further, I even stole their boat, and I finally met up with Anna Henrietta and we found out where Muton would be hiding. Unfortunately, Muton had just been murdered by the killer, and if I didn't have to deal with all this stuff, I would have gotten there earlier and saved Muton's life. All I managed to do is catch up to the killer and fight with him. He seemed to be vulnerable to my fire. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to defeat him, and as he was about to kill me, I was saved by an old friend. It was Regis, my vampire friend from back in the day. The killer was absolutely terrified by him, so he ran away as soon as he realized who he was dealing with. I embraced Regis, thanking him for the help, and he said that we would talk more and have a drink later. I reported what happened to the knights and went off to find Regis. He set me off to find a white and get some of its saliva so we can head off to Tesha Mudna. The white was extremely easy, all I had to do was share a meal with it. After that we headed to Tesha Mudna where I had to complete the ritual. I tortured Regis for a bit and even stabbed him to get some of his blood, but in the end everything went smoothly, for me at least. Thanks to Regis's blood, I watched as the killer annihilated his third victim and even stole some coin in his throat which I had missed and had to go back for. In the end, he cut off his arm, tying up that loose end as well. With no other leads, I decided to see the boot black that the killer often visited. There, I met with a few gentlemen who wanted to beat up the kid. Unfortunately, I needed the kid conscience, so I had to stand up for him. And that didn't end well because I couldn't use Igni during the fight, so these three losers beat me up. Funnily enough though, that led to them being arrested by the guards, so that kinda worked out for me. I talked to the kid, got extorted of my money since I couldn't use Axie to brainwash him, and then got no useful information, only for Regis to show up and be like, hey, I know that he just gave you a fortune in coin, but take this bottle, it will help you. And the damn kid spilled the beans. He should have said so, I would have bought him 10 of those bottles for like 10 times less. Anyway, after me and Regis found some new information, I decided that due to the embarrassment I suffered by the hands of those three idiots that I'll hide my face from now on so nobody recognizes me, and I went to report to the Duchess, and so we went to find Master Fabrizio because apparently some wine had gone missing, and since the Duchess has her priorities straight, she halted the investigation of the murders in order to see what happened to the wine. As you would expect, it turned out that Fabrizio had sold some of the sacred wine, so the Duchess sentenced him to death. No trial, no nothing. Remind me, how is this person beloved by her subjects? At least Fabrizio told us where to find the people who bought the wine, so me and Captain de la Tour did the only logical thing and went to murder all of them. We left one alive, of course, in order to extort some more information out of the guy. I had to threaten him to use him as live bait. I'm a terrible person, now I have realized that. What the hell is wrong with me? Instead of just killing the guy, I'll use him as bait? Because of some stupid Duchess? What the hell is wrong with me? What am I doing here? And all of this is over some wine? Anyway, I was far too deep at this point, so I had to go to a party with the Duchess. Thankfully, things picked up with the murder investigation as Regis showed up with the killer of all people. Look buddy, I know who you are, you know who I am. Let's cut to the chase, this Duchess is an idiot.
You understand this? It must be why you and Regis are friends.
Damn right, and I know him quite well.
If I understand you correctly, you would rather help a monster than kill it.
Oh yes, it's much less of a hassle usually.
Enough about the Witcher trade for now.
Haven't you been taught it's rude to interrupt people's conversations? After the party I told the Duchess that she would either treat me with respect or pay me 10 times more. She decided to pay me with a whole vineyard, so I decided to take her disrespect for a little bit until we solve the murder mystery. Since this case is all over the place, it turned out that the beast was blackmailed, that the sister of the Duchess was involved somehow, probably captured, and that the wine buyers were also involved in the case, so we went to Duntine in order to annihilate them all and solve the mystery once and for all. I talked with the commander of the soldiers of Duntine and he told me that the Duchess's sister is actually the one pulling the strings. As a way of thanking him, I tried to burn him to a crisp, but it turned out that he was immune. After that, I proceeded with storming the castle and even got help from my vampire buddies. Even though Detlef was a cold-hearted killer and I knew that quite well, I decided to keep my mouth shut because he seemed pretty cool. After the vampires annihilated everyone, we found Sienna, and as expected it turned out that she was the one blackmailing the vampire. She was also the Duchess's sister, and she was the one who bought the wine from Master Fabrizio. It seemed that everything was coming together. Unfortunately, Detlef decided to have a very justified crash out and threatened Sienna to either give her life or that all of Beauclair would suffer. I was ready to finish things then and there, but Detlef couldn't do it. He told us that we had 3 days to give up Sienna. I was ready to give her up immediately. I don't need any time to think. Kill her already! Have your revenge! He refused to kill Sienna. Now we have to deal with this. Now we have to deal with the stupid Duchess. Why did you do this to us, Detlef? You could have just killed her and we would have told the Duchess that she was indeed a hostage and one of the soldiers killed her in all of the chaos. It was so simple, Detlef. They didn't even have a happy reunion and Sienna admitted to everything. The stupid Duchess still didn't believe her. This person is impossible to deal with. Things got even better after I told her that Detlef threatened Beauclair.
He dares threaten us?
The hell you mean us? Beauclair could burn for all I care. I think Regis feels the same way. Hell, I even think Sienna feels the same way.
I want what I'm paying for. The head of the beast.
Girl, literally a day ago you were paying me to find your stupid wine. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Unfortunately, it turned out that Regis actually cared for Beauclair and that he wanted to save it from Detlef, and so I had to deal with the Duchess some more, but let's face it, I owed Regis like 1,000 favors at this point, so I agreed to help him, but only if we did it my way, whether that would mean to kill Detlef or not. Regis agreed, and to my disgust, I had to deal with the Duchess again.
Times I hunt foxes. All within an hour. You, Witcher, have had a week. I've begun to suspect my beagles might have done a better job.
Okay then, send the beagle to do my job, let's see how it goes. Hell, send Palmer in as well, let's see if he lasts a minute or not. I doubt he'll last 10 seconds, but hey, let's make things fun. Send all your knights against the vampire. I guess they'll last like a minute and a half at most, because some of them would run away, as the cowards they are. The vampires attacked Beauclair, so honoring my word to Regis, I went on to defend the city. The first enemy I fought was a Bruxer, which I burned to a crisp because for some reason Geralt went outside of combat, and that way I was constantly spamming Igni without even having to charge it up. Then I had to choose between saving Sienna's life and directly summoning Detlef, or sacrificing Sienna and maybe sparing Detlef depending on how things went. I decided to go with the second option and have Sienna delivered to the vampire. In order to find Sienna, we first had to find Captain de la Tour, who knew where she was held. I also found Guillaume's body, like I told him before. Everybody gets 2 saves from me, after that they are on their own, so Guillaume had to find that the hard way. We found de la Tour and he told us where Sienna was held, and so I headed for the land of fables. There I fought with the Wicked Witch, who was very easy to deal with because she was weak to my fire attacks. I found Sienna and the two of us went to find Jost, who knew how to get out of there. To help him we had to deal with 4 wolves, and after that we went to meet up with the big bad wolf. He was also very simple to deal with, as for some reason he's probably the only werewolf who doesn't actually start regenerating himself. Then everything got ruined because I had to deal with the 3 little pigs and their stone house, for which my fire was no match and I had no way of destroying it, and so I had to use art. But instead I decided to load my checkpoint and go back to Beauclair before I decided to go to the land of fables and quite rudely ditch Regis in order to go find Turiana. In order to help me, she wanted me to kill a Garcane for her. I did that quite easily since the Garcane was also quite weak to my fire, and then Oriana told me how to find the unseen elder who would summon Detlef. Regis and I went to find the elder and he quite literally one-shot the both of us. There was absolutely nothing we could have done against him. Somehow I survived though and started exploring the cave the elder was hiding in. There I found how to appease the elder and faced a few vampires. Unfortunately, right in the end I was stopped in my tracks yet again by having to use art, this time in order to destroy a rock, which would return me back to the unseen elder. There was nothing that could have been done. The only way you could proceed forward in both scenarios is to use art. So I guess we're failing the challenge here, but let's continue forward and see if there are any other times where you have to use anything other than Igni in order to proceed. I presented my gift to the unseen elder and he agreed to help me. So me and Regis headed out for Tesha Mudna and summoned Detlef. The Detlef fight turned out to be easier than expected. Since his first form is very weak to fire, it's pretty easy to deal with. The second one, as long as you know his patterns of moving, you can attack him time and time again, and eventually you will destroy his health bar enough where he would go to his third phase, and in there, as long as you damage the eggs and dodge the main body, you will be fine to defeat Detlef. However, the game decides to mess with you and blocks you from using anything other than your sword in order to finish the battle. When you try to use Igni or anything else, the game just tells you that you cannot do that right now. So you cannot finish the fight using Igni, you have to use your sword in order to defeat Detlef once and for all. This means that if you're trying to beat the game using Igni alone, you literally cannot beat Detlef. So your only option is to avoid fighting him. So I had to go back to the land of fables, where I had to use art on the 3 little pigs house, acquire the blue bean from them, and then go through the most difficult battle of probably the entire game, DLC included. That was the Long Logs fight. And not because Long Logs was any tough, no. The problem I faced were the minions she was spawning, because they are wraiths, and wraiths are not very weak to fire, but even worse, they are constantly healing themselves and they do not have any health bars, so I can't keep track of exactly which one I have damaged the most. So even though they're not doing that much damage to you and you should be fine using your health items to deal with them, the fight is just so long, it's actually infuriating. This fight took me 1 hour to complete. I probably fought Long Logs for like 2 minutes of this hour. The minions took me the rest of the time, as they're just so annoying to deal with. Anyway, after this very pleasant experience, me and Sienna went to deal with a few pixies and then fought with the Cloud Giant, who was very easy to deal with, honestly. We went out of the land of fables. When Sienna and Detlef met, Detlef had finally gotten the courage to actually kill her, and even though we had become friends with her in the land of fables, I had no quarrel against Detlef and decided that it was best to just let him leave. Both of us went on our merry ways. I didn't even inform the Duchess, I knew I would be thrown in prison if I did that, so I escaped. We just went with Detlef and everything was good and we finished the challenge. By the way, in the land of fables, make sure you do not buy the ribbon that would save Sienna, because otherwise you will be put in a situation where you're forced to fight with Detlef, and as we established earlier, you cannot defeat him because you have to use your sword in order to do that, so avoid buying the ribbon and you would be fine. In the end, we did fail the challenge because of that one usage of art we couldn't avoid. However, I still think we did a pretty good run in the end of the day. This is the last of the 3-part series where I beat The Witcher 3 while using only Igni. Feel free to check out the rest of the series in the description below, or check out one of my other Witcher challenges. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!